But right now, I want to introduce our next special guest, who is somebody that I have been watching for a long, long time, and hopefully you have too. I have many of his books, and when I was a little, just, 3 beans high, my dad was a chef, and my mom was a gardener. So look at me now. I'm a cook and a gardener. So I'm very, very happy to be introducing this wonderful gentleman. He is internationally known in the culinary world and the television world. He's an award-winning author, a master of metaphorical speaking. His focus is on serving people who want to make healthy, creative lifestyle changes and to increase their consumption of fresh, local, edible plants and seafoods. He was just telling me about this a minute ago, and he is very, very passionate about you all eating healthy, I can tell you that. He is a culinary nutrition consultant for the University of Washington School of Public Health, and recently created the Egg Carton Club, a means of encouraging a 100% increase in local, fresh plant foods. So with that being said, I would like to introduce, and please give a big round of applause from all the way in the back. I want to hear it from Mr. Graham Kerr.
Stand up. You're short, but I'm tall, but I'm going to stand up here anyway because I've got a bunch of stuff that I don't want to miss out on. I've got just an hour with you, and this is a funny timer that I got from Walmart. It's actually a double timer. So the one at the top says steamer, and I've set that for 55 minutes. The one at the bottom says turkey, and that's on for the hour. So when the second one rings, I'm shocked. I hate to be called a turkey, so I will try and do it. When the first one goes, you know that there's relief in sight. Yeah, I could not be more delighted to be here today. I mean, I would have walked from Mount Vernon to here easily in order to be in your midst. That's where Trina and I live at the moment. This is my wife, Trina. There she is. You need to know that Trina in New Zealand, back in 1960, when I started on television, and by the way, Julia Child once said to me, "When did you start on television?" Trina does that better than I do. And I said in 1960, Julia, "No, you didn't, I was first." I said, "No, actually I was started in April of 1960. "Where was that?" And I said, "New Zealand." And she said, "Oh, that doesn't count." I miss her a lot. You see, in those days, Trina said to me, "You are the most boring man in the world, and you need to do something about that." And because I was 26 years of age, and I was on in prime time between Peyton Place and the Avengers. And you need to know that television came on at 6 and finished at 10, so there was no daytime television. And I was boring because I was 26 years old talking to a nation about food, and I didn't see what I knew. I didn't know enough at 26. I don't know enough at 79 now. So when you really get to know a subject, you realize how little you do really know about it. But anyway, in those days, I just worked so hard at knowing everything that I was doing. I wanted to be absolutely sure that nobody caught me out. And I was so uptight that it was true, I was boring. So Trina said, "You want to do something like run in and jump over a chair with a glass of wine?" And I said, "I can't possibly do that." And I said, "If you're so clever, why don't you produce the show?" And she said, "All right, I will." And she went down to New Zealand Broadcasting House, said, "You're ruining my husband and I need to take him." And she took over, and that's why I can stand before you today. She turned, yeah, well done. She got 2 Emmy nominations for TV Producer of the Year for managing to get me to be an idiot in public, when all I really wanted to do was not get caught out. You guys, I'm so grateful to her, because just like Ed said, if life doesn't get to be fun, and get to be a personal passion, then it's boring. And there's nothing worse than a boring life. You might just as well sit on a couch and watch television. And that is the most eat-you-alive procedure that there is in the world today. It's only my old programs and yours, Ed, which are worth watching. So, let me tell you first of all that there is a younger man than I who will be talking to you at 12 noon. And Gary Oppenheimer and I are very recent buddies. But it's so amazing to meet someone who has so much passion on exactly the thing that I really want to do with my life. And Gary is like a place in Israel. In the very northern part of Israel, as far north as you can go, there's a little village called Dan, D-A-N, in which they have a number of small garden farms at the present moment, by the way. Out of that little village comes the largest freshwater spring known in the world today. And it gushes out, runs down the valley, fills up the Sea of Galilee, overflows into the Jordan River, which is then used irrigationally, and then drizzles out in the end into the Dead Sea. My friends, you will meet what I would like to refer to as the Dan of our lives today. This man in New Jersey comes up with an idea to connect us gardeners with food banks, okay, at this time. And there, I don't know how many farmers, gardeners there are growing edibles in their backyard exactly, but we got a fairly good idea. There are millions of pounds of produce that you and I grow for ourselves, don't have enough time to be able to harvest them for ourselves, or don't have enough room for them in season, and they go beyond what we know. We know what zucchini does, after all, and beans. And this is a place where we will know the name of the people to whom we could bring it, the time of the day when it is best to receive it, when the food bank have chilling facilities to be able to receive at different times during the week. Do you know something? I once was told by a friend, if it's a tug of war, you can get involved if you just can find the rope. You guys were in a tug of war with human beings nowadays. The rope has now been provided. This is what Ample Harvest is. When we get involved in that, we're helping the real American dream. You know, I am getting a little fed up with being told that the American dream is a big house and a fancy car. I think the American dream is looking after each other as neighbors. I think that's the American ethic. Let's do away with the dream at the moment and let's get the ethic back again. So that's basically what I want to talk to you about now. I want to talk to you about the ripple effect and how you and I in this place today, in Furnace today, can be part of that spring which is starting to move out across our nation. You've heard it said, you know, these Occupy Wall Street folks, that there's a 1% that has all the income and then there's the rest of us. How would you like to be part of the 0.0001%? Wouldn't that be cute? We need about 5,000 people to consider what I'm going to call at the end of this speech, finding the 50. Just remember that. It's a nice alliteration, finding the 50. And I'll explain that when I get to the end of it. All right, now for the eggs thing. I started, thank you for introducing it, the Egg Carton Club. I've also closed it down. I mean, I got 8 people and then I decided that really wasn't enough. You need 10. You need at least 12 people to fill an egg carton. What I understood was that people love the idea, but we're already up to here with organizations, clubs, and other things that we're committed to. We don't need another club. But I want to today connect what I call the drops between E, G, G, and S. That's eat, grow, gather, and share. All right? Let's see whether you've got that enough. Ready? Are you right? And you just don't bellow it, but eat, grow, gather,
share.
Oh, I love it. You see, those words will rise up into this, and they'll filter down when people come in here to shop. That's wonderful. Good. Okay, I will talk about those, and I want to call those the ripple effect. Now, a ripple is something when a raindrop drops down onto the surface, disturbs the surface, it leaps up. You've seen those wonderful time, freeze frame photographs, where the water leaps up out because this drop came down and displaced the water, and it climbs up into the air, falls down, and a ripple effect rolls out. One drop is enough to be able to cover quite a space, you know. There's an Israeli woman engineer who has devised a mechanism to get electricity out of raindrops. It falls on a piezo surface and sends out energy just because of the raindrop doing it. I thought, boy, she could make a fortune in the Northwest, you know. We could power everything here when in season. It doesn't do that well, but it's enough to say that there is energy released when a raindrop hits the surface. I want you to think of yourself now, whatever you think of yourself, I want you to think of yourself as a raindrop. Because that's how I would love to see myself. I hate the idea of being regarded as a bucket. You know, a bucket full of water go like this, and then you get all this kind of mess and waves running around. I want to be a raindrop, but I want to rain with you. I want you to drop in the same area that I am raining, and if we do, we get a puddle. And if we keep raining, we'll get a pond, and if we keep raining, we'll get a lake. All right? And then if that overflows, we'll get a river going, and a delta effect, and then we can start to see things change. But I want to talk it through. I want to connect the drops, not the dots, but the drops between eat, grow, gather, and share. Is that right? Okay, fine. We have a real problem in our world today. The biggest problem is our means of communication. We have now changed the communication system. We used to have somebody in the public square who would stand there and give the news. Oh yay, oh yay, oh yay, and then would read out what the news was. And people would gather around and they would get the news, they would go away and they would talk to each other about it and then think about what that meant. We have not got that anymore. Every single nanosecond we are being bombarded with millions of pieces of information. So much so that most of the time you and I would just like to be able to go, shut up! Just get me off this thing. I don't want to hear this anymore. I just want to be alone. I want to have some time just for me. You guys, we have to do something. I think, destroyed my hearing aid, but just a moment. I couldn't hear myself speak, which Trina would tell you is a great advantage for me. Okay, that's all right. Good, I've got myself back. I was in the British Army and I said to the sergeant on the shooting range, Sergeant, do you have a hearing protection? And the sergeant said, next thing you want is a dress. Now carry on firing. So I'm like so many people my age wandering around going, and we're not necessarily Canadians, you know. So aside from that, I am back fully at the moment. According to the web, we have 1 billion connections being made every week. 1 billion people are sending information and receiving it from one to the other. Add to that the fact that when Julia Child and I were on television together, there were 4 channels in New York City. The average person in New York City now has 118 channels and has access to 654. You guys, this is more than a human being can take in. We know that. But if it's there, we tend to try and watch it and be entertained by it. And we're dissuaded from being the neighbors that we should be to each other, and maybe even having time in the garden to be able to do something. All I'm trying to say is the biggest single change today is that nobody can lead us into anything. We have to decide for ourselves what we're going to be involved in. And when we decide for ourselves, let us reign consistently in one place and get that thing done. Get it to be a pond and a puddle and a lake, by all means. We won't do it unless we do that. Oh, by the way, I don't have it. This is a tie. I was thinking of wearing one today, and I thought, if I wear a tie in Furnace, I'm going to get thrown out. But this is a tie with mason bees on it. This is a mason bee tie. Mason bees don't produce honey. Mason bees pollinate everything in sight, and which is really what I want to do in the nicest way, is to make sure that you guys know what the message is. So I just wanted to wear that for the... So we drop it. Yeah. Just remember the mason. Okay. So I call this now the instant age of us. All right? Give that some thought. You are really important. There is nobody with a bigger raindrop than yours. Not the President of the United States. He gets a chance to talk to us quite a bit. But you get the chance to overlap the ripples made by your neighbors. And when we start to be consistent in the things that we're doing that benefit each other and do less harm to the planet, that's the time when you and I begin to reshape the world around us, which is exactly what Ed finished off by saying today. So in 2008, and this is disgusting, but I love Bill Clinton the other night. I don't know whether you watched him, but I'm certainly a long distance from Arkansas. I was born in London. But if I could have any of his ability to talk statistics the way he does, I would love it. So I'm going to try. In 2008, sorry, that's transportation. In Mount Vernon, we live with the sound of freedom. We have the intruders from Whidbey Island, so I'm fairly used to it. The National Gardening Association said that we had 36 million people who were gardening in the United States. And gardening was not differentiated between flowers and vegetables, it was just gardening. In 2009, there were 43 million. That's a 19% increase in just 1 year. And notice what happened in 2008. The stock market started to go down, we started to slow up in our world. And this 7 million people started to garden. Interesting. And one of those, by the way, was me. So I love to be part of the statistical evidence. In 2013, this is a projection by the National Gardening Association, there will be 52 million who will be gardening. This is a trend which is moving forward every day. As our economy has slowed, so growing has increased. It seems perfectly rational to me that people realize we may not be able to grow enough for our own families in just one small plant in the seasons that we have, but we can do what we can do for our families. We have in 2010, the number of households in the United States was 115 million, right? And 24 million of those people didn't have any gardening space at all. So that leaves 91 million places that have space to have a garden. And remember, well, the number of people that are projected is 52 million. That's more than 1 in every 2 of us will be having a space in which to be able to grow things. Now, We are in zone 8 here, zone 8 A and B. And that's it's Cascadia, this side of the mountain range. So we have a kind of mega climate that we can look at together. And I want to talk now about that mega climate and make a statement. I'm going to tell you that in my hope is this, that by the year 2020, you and I will live in the most famous kitchen garden centers of the world. This bee in Cascadia will be it. And I want to give you the reasons why. I want to actually answer 3 questions for you. First of all, why 2020? Secondly, why Cascadia? And thirdly, why should you worry anyway? You know, why should it be a matter of your concern? Then I'm done. So the first thing is 2020. I see some of you don't have glasses. But those who do know that 2020 vision is what they talk about, where you can look down, see fine print, and look up in the future, or look up in the distance and see the distance just fine, right? And you can do that straight away. Think of that intellectually. I can see what's going on today in this part where I live, and I can look into the future and imagine, almost as if I'm seeing it, what it's going to be like in 10, 20, 30 years' time, right? That's called 2020 vision. If we only are living in the moment of today and making no discernible logical plans for the future, then we are not going to have a good future, because people will simply drive for whatever they can get out of life today and rip this planet to pieces by the time we get to 2030. And I'll give you some details on that in a moment. So for me, we have 10 or 7 seasons to go to get to 2020, so that you and I have eyes to see and ears to hear what might be going on as far as our world is concerned and where we can fit into that. That's an important date, because by 2020, if we, the people, are not telling who are we, the politicians, that they have to come to an international agreement to stop the ruin of this planet, then we are finished as humanity on this planet. We are literally within 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you can see the end coming. Now, I'm not a person who dwells a lot upon things falling in on ourselves. I really believe that there is very good evidence that this planet can continue for thousands of years in very verdant and support its potential population. But we're not going to do it the way that we're proceeding at the present moment. We cannot do that. And we need to know that enough, have eyes to see and ears to hear the information we need, and we need to tell those people who have a bucket full of influence that we raindrops are telling you, make an agreement and stop this business that's going on at the present moment. Okay. I want you to think of a traffic signal at the moment, if you would. You come up to an intersection and it's green. And it's been green for some time as you drive up, and you're thinking to yourself, it's going to turn amber any moment now. So what is your choice? Yeah, you speed up or slow down. And there are different kinds of people who do that. My wife Trina is, why are you slowing down? I said, in case it goes amber. Why don't you put your foot in the gas and let's go through it? This is my beloved. Okay? I'm a Scot, and she's part Dutch, part French, part Romanian, and part Irish, and directly descended from the queen of the Romanian gypsies, and she just doesn't stand around and accept anything just like that. She's foot to the floor and go for it. Now, I watched somebody yesterday go through the amber, and the person behind him going just about his speed, and they were both speeding up quite well. I watched him go through on the red. he was drafting behind the other guy, and it was very clear he was within 1 second of a collision from a guy who was in a hurry to leap off from the other side. Not only when you drive through an intersection like that, not only are you risking your own self, but you're risking somebody else's life as well. But hell, if you're going to get your part of it, then I'm going to put my foot on the gas and damn it, I'm going to get there. Because I am in charge of this situation. You guys, you are not. The American ethic is that you do unto others as they would have you do unto you, and you slow down for the other fellow. What does it matter? You're going to waste 30 seconds of your life waiting for the thing to change? You allow other people to use the roadway under yourself, and unavoidable. But 80% are unavoidable because there are personal behavior. And the biggest single thing we can do is to eat more plants. If we do that, then we are beginning to lower the cost of health care in the United States. We don't have a health care problem. We have a health problem. And it's us. And it's not that we're bad. It's just that other people are so good at marketing stuff to us that our defenses let it through. All right? And once we're hooked, if it's salty enough or sweet enough or fatty enough, we love it. And it doesn't matter whether we look at the scales and we weigh 4 pounds more than we thought we would. And you know jolly well how you got there, but that still doesn't stop you from wanting to eat that damn pizza again, or have the 3 scoops of ice cream on top of a cornet. You know, we have gone into a silly season of portion sizes. And how do you retreat from that? I, as a reasonably red-blooded male, have to go to an ice cream place and say, I want a child-sized ice cream, please, in a small cornet. And I feel I'm alongside and going, go, give me your best, you know. And he's got this dripping up his arm on a warm day, and I've got just enough like this, and I feel, you know, really. Come on, man, you know, you're a guy. Come on, can't you get through 2 scoops? Especially when I want the non-fat, non-sugar one as well. Why bother? You know, that's why we call the, you know, when we go to Starbucks, we say, I've got a 16-ounce, why bother? And then they say, what's that? That's decaf skim milk, you know. So you're meeting real needs. You guys, we have a need to go 100% more plant food per day. It's not just, I'm not being arbitrary about this, you actually need it. So that's an industry that can fill a need and succeed. To do that, we have to upgrade delight. Look at the word delight and draw a red line across your eyes at the moment as you're sitting there. Think of red line here. Above the line, it's called lust, which is a strong, driven desire for something. Whoa, you know. Underneath that, it's delight. Wow, that was terrific. Yeah? There is not a drivenness to have more. There is a delight in what you eat. We have sufficient and it's delightful. That is where my life exists at the moment. I am very wary of what it takes to go above that line, and I know how to do it. It's salt, fat, sugar, large portions. That does it every time. A sugar-glazed donut filled with jam that you can dunk into some really leaded coffee, you know, on a cold morning, steaming up with that fragrance of that. I know, yum, chew, mouth. This is edible pornography, you see. Now, I said that once, and the person who was close to me, I didn't know, I just knew them. They went to our same church. A nice young couple. He came up and he said, "I make donuts." And I thought, I got a cheap laugh out of someone that I like. And I didn't know I was pulling the rug out from under them by saying that. We do not need to speak poorly about anything that any one of us does at the moment. We will make no friends by being critical. We will make friends by contributing. We have to find a way to delight people and do less harm. Do less harm to the soil, do less harm to the water, do less harm to each other and the air that we breathe. Come on. We are fellow inhabitants of this planet, and we can make a difference by doing that. I believe that we're going to make backyard community interaction with food pantries the biggest personal movement in this part of the world. I believe we will get more people involved in what we're talking about with Ample Harvest than anywhere else in the country. Why? Because we are opinion setters in the Seattle region. This is a mega trend area. We do get involved with things that have a practical outcome that we see work. All we have to do is get involved in this. And we can really make this work on a national basis. There should be no gardener who cannot go online and find the answer to where to take his surplus produce and be able to make it available for somebody else. We're really helping people when we do that. So why try? Why should you and I try? Let me tell you this. You have 70... I don't want any barriers between you now. You and I have 74 trillion cells in our body. I'm walking around with 74 trillion cells. I think that's 7 times the national deficit. Every 1/10,000th of a second, there are 220,000 chemical reactions taking place in your body. In the midst of those 74 trillion cells. The object of which is every 7th year to have completely renewed every one of those cells. So I'm now 78 years of age, so my cells have gone through this process 11 times. All right? Now, if they are renewing themselves, all right, in a perfectly correct way, they do this because they have a DNA in the middle of the cell which has got the blueprint of what needs to be done with that cell to renew it, right? So remember that movie, whatever it was, where Hal, yeah, okay, good. It spits out mud, top right hand side. Now there's something called an RNA messenger. And an RNA messenger, I like to think, is a guy on a Harley, all right? And he's got a chrome helmet, brand new leathers with great tassels on them like this one. He's got so much chrome on that bike you wouldn't believe. And when he kicks it over, it howls. It just doesn't tick over. He really loves this bike. And he's the messenger. He's waiting for a message every moment. How? Mud, top right hand side. Mud, top right hand. Spreads out. Top right hand side he goes. That should be a terrific photograph. Mud, top right. So he arrives and there's little fellas up there who do the repair work. And he said, Mud, top right hand side. Stop! And they start repairing the cell. Now, take that, that's exactly how it works. Every 7th year, it's done. And by the way, there's 50 million cells right now changing every second in your body. they come to the end of their 7th year, fully remade, with integrity. But what happens if the integrity goes? Here's what happens. A free radical comes in. Something like the Scud missiles that were fired at Israel during the, by Saddam Hussein. And they come in and they knock the guy off his bike. Not only that, but it causes him to take up smoking and he gets to be forgetful. He doesn't polish his bike and it gets rusty. He doesn't tune it and it's very hard to start. So, Martin, drop right hand side. So he drives off to the bottom left-hand side and tells him to put some bricks there, which is not at all what the DNA had in mind. But it got repaired, and so now the cell is kind of wobbly. Doesn't really know what it's there for. Now, we have a few genetically sown cancer cells in our body. They're alive, they're well, and they want to multiply. So every now and again they nudge the cell next door and say, come on, let's make a tumor. And so the cell next door says, shut up, fuck off. You know, I know what I'm here for, I'm a liver cell, I don't need to be a tumor. Go away. And so that's how it stops, because cells know who they are, they have integrity. But the one, unfortunately, that didn't make a mess from the DNA, it was the RNA that had the problem, who got knocked about by the free radical. And so, okay, I might as well, I don't know what I'm here for anyway. And that's the way that our chronic diseases start. So, Israel was protected from the Scud missile by the Patriot missile bases. Boom in the air, knock it out of the sky, no problem. That's called an anti-missile missile. Right? An antioxidant knocks down the free radical before it hits the guy on the motorcycle. Where do you get your antioxidants? Fruit, vegetables. That's why this is important. Now listen to me, you guys. We know this, and we know this for certain. You and I are human beings, and we respond to self-interest. Right? We are all self-interested first. That is the first thing that motivates us. No matter who says what, number one is me. So I am going to do what I'm going to do for my 74 trillion cells. But what happens when I slow down at the intersection for an amber light and stop for other people is I'm no longer immediately self-interested. I'm also considering others. So I'm going now BISI, beyond immediate self-interest. This is an extraordinary characteristic, and I believe it represents us as Americans better than anybody else on earth. We have been marketed to on self-interest. We have immediately bought into that. But we are not a people who are going to put up with that as the final end product of our lives. We will be consumers, that's the nature of our culture, but we are going to go beyond being a consumer. So that if I look at my wife Trina's head, with her permission, she's had a stroke and a heart attack, she's diabetic, hypertensive, she's now 14 years older than her oldest surviving parent. Both her brothers are seriously ill people. And I have gone beyond my immediate self-interest and incorporated my life into hers and have wanted to do the best I can for her. And because of the fact that it has worked for her and me, we now go beyond our own self-interest to talk to you. And you might go beyond your own self-interest to be able to see that other people get an opportunity for this kind of plant food to get to be a well people again. It's so exciting that we might have this opportunity. So wonderful. So it's just $5,000 in this nation. That's 0.0001% of those who have gardens. 0.0001% of those have gardens. 50 million people. I'm just asking for 5,000 who might say, I'm going to look for 50 cents per day of harm that I might be doing to myself in my own household. 3 cookies. They're 17 cents each. That adds up to 50 cents. 1 ounce of steak. All right? To take an 8-ounce steak and make it a 7-ounce steak. That will save me $1. It will save me $1 to have a half a cup less of ice cream. In my household, not per person, in my household. Could you find 50 cents per person today? That's the kind of connection we need with Ample Harvest. If you find a way to reducing the harm in your household to the people that you love, you could connect that harm directly to a mechanism where we will find people all over this nation connecting, sending millions of pounds of produce to people who don't normally have it. It's a very exciting potential. All right? So that's my job. Here is the phrase for you. Just remember. Let us together delight and do less harm to each other, to the soil, to the water, and the air that we breathe. And if we do that by eating better, growing plants better, gathering together, which is a book I hope that you've got there called The Gathering Place. Read that one and see how that works. And then sharing. That sharing is why we're here with this thing at the moment. We're going to change the world. We're going to do it from Cascadia. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Big round of applause. Let's hear it all the way to the back. Kerr, Galloping Gourmet. Thank you so much. So here's what we're going to do now. We have our first raffle drawing for the day. We have so many great things to give away. And we're going to have some questions for Graham from the audience. So if you have any questions, I'll be coming out with the microphone. And Graham, we thought maybe what we'd do is have you be able to use this microphone right here to answer questions if anybody has any. So we've got a drawing for a fabulous fruit tree over here. So hopefully you all have your names in the drawing. Has everybody got their name in? Yes? No? Oh, run over there, get your name in really fast. There's lots of good stuff to get in for this drawing. So I'll give you a minute to do that. Hey, while we're waiting for those people to get their names in the drawing real fast, I want to make sure that you all get around to see the vendors that we have as well. We have Vern Tater, the wood turner, and if you have not seen his woodwork back there, it truly is art. It's a functional art, but it is fantastic. So you really have to take a look at that. So we have some absolutely fabulous vendors and informational booths here today. So hopefully you're getting some good information as well. Don't forget that we have the produce drive at the back. If you have produce at home that is sitting around, if you've got extra apples from your apple tree, extra anything that you can give and bring today, it will go to a good source. So with that being said, does anybody have questions for Graham? I'll maybe get him back up to the microphone here if anybody has any questions. Okay, no questions. So I guess we're going to go straight to the drawing then, Graham. And I've got the drawing jar right here coming up for you. And, oh, we do? Good. Okay, we've got a couple more coming in here for the drawing, so we're going to give it just a minute. So I want to give you some key words from Graham's talk. We are all teardrops, right? I like it, right? Yeah, let's hear it. Raindrops. Not teardrops, of course. We could be happy about it, not sad. We are raindrops. We are out there spreading the word about Ample Harvest. And we are also learning something about delight. I was really interested in the way that Graham put that today. I thought that was fascinating. But my favorite 2 words today have to be edible pornography. Anybody who's been looking at Pinterest, or been looking at Facebook, or been looking at any of Graham's books, is well aware of edible pornography. So the other thing too about Fernie's hosting this event that I want to make sure that you're all aware is that if you ever have any plant questions, we don't have Ed Hume every day here, but we do have staff horticulturists, and there's 2 of us here. Jason, give a wave. Jason's over there at the table just waiting for you to stump him. So I want everybody to go over and try and stump Jason with a horticultural question today. I dare you. But we have Jason over there, and we always have people on staff to help you with any of your questions. So if you need to catch us on the phone, if you need any design help, we have designers and garden coaches available as well. So Fernie's is here for you with great plants, and we're here to make you successful gardeners. We are ready for our drawing. Graham, here we go. Pick a name. This is for a fruit tree. I don't know what kind of fruit tree. What's the name?
Bartlett pear.
It's a Bartlett pear tree. All right, pear trees do so fabulous in our climate. I don't know if you're aware, but pear trees are one of the best fruits to grow in our climate. This is Nicole Stanley, who won this fruit tree. Nicole, are you here? Nicole! She might be out running around shopping for plants, hopefully. So Nicole will get a fruit tree to take home. Thank you very much. All right, is there any questions for Graham today? All right here.
I have a lot of tomato plants, and there are a lot of green tomatoes on them, and the leaves are starting to turn yellow. So I'm thinking I'm going to have to harvest them pretty soon, and I'm wondering if Ample Harvest can use my green tomatoes.
Let us understand what Ample Harvest does. Ample Harvest is a matchmaker. What they will do is they will let you know your nearest food pantry, food bank, whatever it's called. And they will tell you the time of the day when you can go there and what they will most want to have from your garden. You will also have a telephone number, and you will be able to call them and ask that very question of them. Right? And I'm hoping that in the fullness of time we are going to have 4 food banks. A really wonderful idea. And that will be that there will be a series of cooking methods for people who have never actually had the opportunity of cooking kale or kohlrabi or something of that nature. So that those would be available to people. Okay. Yes, Becky.
I discovered this year that the Des Moines Food Bank will also take plants. So I donated a whole bunch of leftovers from the Master Garden plant sale to the Des Moines Food Bank, and they distributed those as future food.
It's wherever there is a type of person who says people who line up at food banks are getting cheap food and they just don't want to work. This is so far from the truth anyway, but particularly nowadays. Many food banks are now actually having people who would volunteer at the food banks are now actually having to take food from the food banks. So we have, in our part of the world, 1 in every 6 households is food bank dependent. So if we are saying that we are a nation who cares, then something has to happen where we go beyond our immediate self-interest. If we're growing stuff, I know this year, I was away and my broccoli suddenly took off. It was lovely, great crowns of broccoli. When I came back, it was like a firework display of yellow. So it had gone too far, and I had such visions of delivering this wonderful broccoli, because Trina hates broccoli. So I was going to eat my share, and then I was going to take the rest to the food bank, and it's gone. we need to be watchful of our gardens so that when it's ready, and as Trina says, wash it brilliantly, package it, you've got old plastic bags or paper bags, put it in those bags, put it in the thing, and send it down there in a way so that it doesn't have to be majorly handled. That it's ready for people to consume. Okay? Yeah.
We have an answer about the green tomato question. Go ahead and I'll repeat you.
Yes.
She's giving the answer for the green tomato question. If you take those green tomatoes and wrap them in brown paper, the brown paper actually helps the off-gassing, ripening the tomatoes. So she's given a great answer for all those extra tomatoes. One more question? Yeah, it takes a little while. Just depends on how really green and hard they are when you get them, but you have to peek at them. Yeah, exactly. I know there's people waiting for Graham to sign books over here. So if you have a book that you want to make sure and get signed, Graham is here available to do that, and also if you have any other extra questions.
Let me tell you a quick thing about that book. The eat and grow issue that I talked about is both in that one book. I started a garden 4 years ago up in Mount Vernon. I had never gardened before in my life. So I was 74 years of age when I started in 08. Now, you guys, I am now signing up for a Master Gardener's course in January. I've spoken twice at the Seattle Flower and Garden Show under Becky's. Becky really is the key person down there. I am a total nutcase on this one. I don't spend any more than an hour a day in the garden, do I? And I actually type a timer with me so as to make sure that if I can do 400 square feet of gardening for my family on 1 hour a day and then go away and I don't make it up. I don't do 2 hours then. So I'm doing a little less than an hour a day. My garden functions perfectly. All right? Moderately perfect. No perfect. You guys, I've written about it here, how I started it, and it's, Master Gardeners tell me it's a useful book. The most important thing for me is that it takes the plants that will grow in the Northwest, and then it gives you the recipes that you can use for those plants, and it gives you the full nutritional value of each of those recipes as well. So that's in 60 different connections, plus a whole herb garden.
Thank you once again, Graham Kerr, everybody. A big round of applause. Okay, if you'd like your books personalized, if you have any questions for Graham, he's right here. At noon, we will have Gary Oppenheimer, the founder of Ample Harvest, speaking. He gets to hang out with some pretty cool people. He's been at the White House. So you get to ask him about that. And any other interesting questions you have about learning more about Ample Harvest would be great. Be sure to visit some of our vendors. There is a really, really cool booth back there that I wanted you all to learn about. It is Earth Systems Northwest. They are about harvesting rainwater and water cisterns. And that is something that if you're doing drought-tolerant gardening here in the Northwest, that is something really important to learn about. So be sure to get around and learn the information from those vendors. We've got Master Gardeners back there as well. And there you go. So back at noon, we will have Gary Oppenheimer from AmpleHarvest.org. Thank you very much.